Hi, and welcome to the Business Pioneer Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Montgomery, founder and CEO of Three Girls Media Inc., an award-winning digital marketing agency. Today's guest is Brian McKechnie, the founder of BiZABLE, a brand new business bringing awareness, strategy, and support to an often overlooked side of entrepreneurship, business credit. After nearly 2 decades in the mortgage industry, Brian made a really bold pivot, diving into a space where most small business owners don't even realize there's an opportunity. His story is about recognizing the gaps in the system and choosing to fill them with something better. We're going to talk about his journey from operations to leadership, the moment he realized what most businesses were missing, and how he's bringing a coaching forward approach to financial empowerment. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. So tell us, what is BiZABLE?
Sure. So this is my baby here that I created about just going on 6 months now. I was in the mortgage business, like you said, for almost 20 years, and that's pretty much the majority of my adult life I spent in that arena, in all facets of the mortgage industry, from operations, processing, to operations management, and then later on in sales, most recently a branch manager at a well-respected company. So I knew a lot about personal credit when I was in the mortgage business, for obvious reasons. But when I heard the words business credit, I was taken aback because I had never heard of such a thing. That there was an actual business credit score that was attached to businesses that was different than a personal credit scores. And I thought that was so fascinating. I thought it was so weird that I had never heard that, but I didn't pay it any mind because I was not an entrepreneur. So I figured, oh, well, I'm sure that most people in that sphere know about business credit. But then I started to realize, after I started having conversations with business owners, that they didn't really know anything about it either. So I thought that there was a gap there. I thought that was just really weird that there was this whole sphere of business credit scoring, how it was different than personal credit. And the fact that I was having so many conversations with business owners, then they didn't have a clue what I was talking about. I really saw an opportunity there and a gap in the industry, and just figured that it was very underserved and undervalued. So I created this business that where we could basically help businesses in a way where we're educating them and introducing them to a whole new side of funding their business, without the liability of utilizing your personal credit and personal assets to fund your business, which I found that 99% of small business owners are doing just that.
Absolutely. I think that is so wonderful that you saw a need and then set out to fill it. And tell me, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur after working for so many years in the mortgage industry and working for other people? What made you decide to take that leap?
Well, I'll tell you, because that's funny that you asked that, because if you would have asked me just 2 years ago, hey, are you going to be a business owner someday? I would have said, absolutely not. No interest in that. I never really did have that entrepreneurial spirit. I had, worked W-2 jobs my whole life, and it never really was in the cards for me, I didn't think. But something, as most of these things happen, something forced my hand. And basically what happened was, I was in mortgages, and then I found out about business credit, and I took a sales job. After I got done with the mortgages, I took a sales job as a contract salesperson for a large company that was doing something similar to what I'm talking about here, helping businesses build credit around their business, to get rid of personal guarantees and different things like that. And so that's kind of where I got introduced to it. But shortly after I became involved with them, they shut their doors.
Oh,
I'm not really sure about exactly what happened. I was low man on the totem pole and I was pretty new. So I just heard rumors really, but basically it was a large company and some of the ownership went one way and some of the ownership went another way and kind of submarine that whole company on the way out. So I was left, somebody that just left mortgages, and which I'd pretty much known my whole life, to do this thing that I thought was so powerful and so meaningful, spreading this education about business credit and how to build it and stuff like that. I was so excited, and then the rug just got pulled right out from under me. So at that point, I had a couple of choices. This was about July of last year. At that point, I had a couple of different choices. Obviously, the easiest one would have been just for me to go back to mortgages. I know what that is and know what that looks like, and I'm sure I could have found something that it would have been just fine. But I really, really liked what we were doing, and just because that company was going away didn't mean the need for a company like that was going away. So,
Sure.
so I said I can go back to mortgages, or I can spend the rest of the year doing the research that I need to do in order to see what it would take to build a business that was similar, but not only doing what they were doing, but doing it better and more efficiently on a much newer platform, at a much lower price, to where I could reach more businesses. I could reach more businesses because the price point, at that other company was quite high, and because I'm by myself, I don't have to pay all the uh, I don't have the large infrastructure overhead. I thought that I could do this the right way and help a lot more businesses that I may have not been able to help in the past at that other company. And so, um, fast forward about 6 months, and here we are. I incorporated at the beginning of this year, and now I'm talking to you here, almost the end of May, and I just can't believe it. I've really been up and running for about 3 months, and I'm super excited.
Well, congratulations on taking the leap to become an entrepreneur, because I know it's not an easy decision and it's really scary
Hmm.
after you've had a, stable career for so many years to go in a completely different direction and then go out on your own on top of it. It can be really overwhelming. So tell me, what have you learned in these first few months of being in business for yourself?
I learned that if you have first of all, you have to have a plan. I felt I had a pretty good business plan going into it, but I quickly realized that there was so much I didn't account for, and
Hmm.
it's not because that was just not a part of the plan. It's just because I didn't know.
Sure.
That's the main thing about starting your own business. There's just so many little things that pop up, and all you're thinking about is just trying to like actually get the business off the ground and up and
Right.
running and go out and meet customers and meet new clients and get your um taglines out there, and but
Yeah.
there's just so many little things that would pop up that would keep me from doing that I just didn't account for. And so
Hmm.
it definitely took longer than I thought to get it up and running to the way I needed it to be, where these things were taking care of themselves in the background, so I could actually just focus on meeting new clients, getting my message out there, and doing it that way. Right? There was just so many little things I didn't account for.
Absolutely. I think that's so true for every entrepreneur, is that you go into it thinking, well, I'm going to do marketing, or I'm going to do
Hmm.
business credit, or I'm going to, sell ice cream, or whatever it is you're going to do. And you
Right.
don't realize how much ancillary stuff there is to running a business.
Right.
I knew for me, I was shocked. And when I started Three Girls, and I'm coming up now on my 20th anniversary in business next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
But I can remember back to those beginning days and realizing how much I didn't know. And I think one of the best bits of advice that I was ever given as an entrepreneur is to do what you know and do what you do best and
Hmm.
hire everything else out. Whether it's your bookkeeping or your whatever else it may be, hire it out and let experts in their field do that for you. And then you focus on your core business and taking care of that. And
Right.
I think that that's really, really smart advice because you can't do everything as an entrepreneur. At least most of us can't. If you want to have a successful business, you need to surround yourself with smart people who know what they're doing in their industries and let them handle those things and you focus on what you do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I had this plan because I at the very beginning, people were asking me, "Why are you going to hire people?" And I said, "Well, at the beginning, I'm just going to do it my own. I want to make sure that this is a really a good viable business that I can get off the ground and make sure that it all works, and then I can add to that. I wasn't going to hire anybody until until being in business at least a year to make sure
Mhm.
that I had everything dialed in. I'm quickly realizing that I am only one person. And, not only am I a business owner, I am also, I'm also married. I'm also a father of three, very energetic little boys. And then also in my spare time, whatever that is,
Mhm.
I also coach high school football at Puyallup High School. Have been doing that for, this will be my 13th season coming up. So I try to do that as well, give back to the community that way. And so I'm quickly realizing that as I look at my calendar and even today, I had like 3 meetings before this, and now I have 3 meetings after we're going to be done here, and the time just goes flies by, and I
Mhm.
just realized that I'm the only one person that I might have to amend that uh, not hiring anybody for a year kind
Yeah.
of thing, because I'm getting to the point where again I need to be out there and I need to be doing certain activities, and there's just things that are bogging me down, and so I need
Yeah.
to figure that out.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you will figure it out. I think every good entrepreneur does, but
Hmm.
it is sometimes kind of that shocking realization when you get to the place where you realize I can't do it all by myself anymore. I need somebody, whether it's an independent contractor or, whatever the relationship is, but bringing on that help is so key to your future success and allowing you to, again, do what you do best and then let other people do other things in your business that you don't necessarily need to spend the time on. So tell me, what does BiZABLE do? Do you actually help businesses get credit or apply for credit? How does that work and what does that look like?
So it's a process. So our process, what BiZABLE does is, what we've done is created a platform to invite business owners in and be a part of that, where basically what we did was our platform, we went out and kind of identified the main obstacles for businesses building this type of credit, because there are many. There's a lot of different obstacles and pitfalls to watch out for and different things. And what we did is we created a platform where we could basically invite the business owner onto the platform and basically hold their hand through a very specific, very intentional set of steps.
Mm.
7 steps to be in fact. So it's a 7-step process. It takes about a year to get them from step one being they have no credit. They've never seen their credit score. They didn't know their business had a credit score, or it's they do know, but it's super low, and they have a low recommended credit limit based on the merits of their business. They may have great business personal credit, but their business credit has been neglected because they most of them didn't even know that it existed.
Mm.
And so that's step one. That's where people are usually starting. And our whole job is to get them to step 7, which is a robust business credit profile built around the business with a high credit score, a business credit score, and a high recommended credit limit, um, based around the business and its own merits. That way they can tap into funding whenever they need it for whatever they need and whatever their goals are, um, to tap into when they need it, that is separate from their personal credit and their personal assets. So their business stays separate, running on its own 2 feet, and now their personal stays personal.
Mm-hmm.
And really achieving that separation between your business and your person.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, that's why when you become a business owner and
Mm-hmm.
become an entrepreneur, you incorporate in some way. You become an LLC, or you're a sole proprietor, or form a corporation, or, there's all these different types of business entities. But
Sure.
essentially, you become a business entity to protect yourself personally
Mm-hmm.
from the business in case something goes wrong. Then gosh forbid you ever get sued, they're going to come after the business, not you personally. And so I
Correct.
would assume with business credit, it's the same kind of thing. Is you want that separation between your personal credit and your business credit. So the business credit is associated with the business and everything that goes on there, and then personal is personal.
Exactly. I mean, you brought up liability. That's a big thing, right? Um, it was always intended for, again, our business to be one entity and our person to be a totally different entity. That's what the EIN is on your LLC or S corp or C corp or whatever. It's basically the social security number for your business. So in the eyes of the government, it's a separate entity, and like a separate entity, it can build credit on its own merits. You just don't know how. Just most business owners just don't know how. And if you
Mm-hmm.
look for this information online, you're not going to find anything. If you type in how to build business credit online, you're just going to get spammed a bunch of people trying to give you predatory
Mm.
funding. And if you go to your banker, they're they're really good and well versed at what they do and how they can help you and what their products are. But outside of that, they're really not going. They don't have any information outside of the scope of what they do. So again, there's this lack of resources. There's this lack of education where business owners just don't have anywhere to turn if they even wanted to do something like this. They don't even have they don't even know where to start. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, that's where I saw that BiZABLE could fill a need there in developing education, developing a platform around, okay, these are the steps you take. These are when you take them. This is how you need to do it. It's a very intentional set of steps, that you need to do in a certain way, and each step builds on each other. So you can't skip ahead. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people try to skip ahead and they just try to go get the funding. Little do they know that their business isn't set up correctly and they have a bunch of stuff wrong, and the bank ends up telling them, no, you're denied. And they don't even tell them why. And it could be something as silly as, you're using your cell phone as your business phone,
Mm.
or you're using your home address as your business address, or you have a business email that ends in gmail.com or hotmail.com if people use Hotmail still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. These are things that nobody tells you when you're opening your business could be a detriment to you later on the process.
Right.
Nobody tells you any of these things.
Yeah.
Only later do you find out that these things could be held against you. And that's what BiZABLE is trying to do, is trying to build the foundations of businesses so they can present themselves in a way that they look the best they possibly can when they do finally come to the point where they do need funding and they are trying to expand.
Mm-hmm. And so, who was your ideal client? Is it any business owner? Is it someone who's relatively new in business? Who is the best person or type of business to work with you?
So, first of all, anybody honestly, anybody that has an EIN, has a LLC, S corp, C corp, is corporated in some aspect there, and has an EIN, they have the ability to do this. So it doesn't really matter if you're a small cleaning company or a multi-million-dollar construction company. They both are joined in the fact that they have an EIN, and the small cleaning company has just as much of a access to build credit around their business as the construction company. Again, now, what is the ideal person? You're talking about a sophisticated business owner that actually is looking to the future. We we live in such a instant gratification world right now. And that's just kind of how it is, right? If we order something off Amazon today, what do we expect? We expect it's going to come the same day, or
Yep.
at the latest tomorrow,
Tomorrow,
right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what we want. We want to pay for something now, and we're going to get something now,
Hmm.
right? It's a very, very, but nothing in business comes now. Very few things, anyways. If you're paying for, some business like yours, people are paying for marketing, social media engagement, different things like that. These are things that they're going to pay money for now, but they have the understanding that these results are going to yield over time, right?
Yes.
And so it's very similar in my field, because nothing happens overnight in the credit industry,
I'm
right?
sure.
Nothing happens overnight in the credit industry. Anybody that's had personal credit issues can attest to that, of course. It's very similar on the business side. Again, most people are starting from scratch.
Hmm.
So again, they're going to have to go through a set of steps to get where they want to be. And so they need to say, okay, well, I'm going to be spending this money, but I'm going to be spending this money for what I can get in a year, because that's where I want it. That's where I want to be. So it takes a forward-thinking person with some motivation that really is the ideal client, obviously.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And when in the lifetime of a business is a good time to establish business credit? Is it something that all new businesses should do out the gate, or is there ever a wrong time to do it?
Well, I mean, if you knew what you're, I mean, putting my platform aside, if you knew what to do, I don't know why you wouldn't do it from day one.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm doing with my business. Obviously, I was my own first client.
Hmm.
And so I'm going through the process now, that any one of my clients would go through with my own business. And my business is only 5 months, soon to be 6 months old. Um, so obviously building it from the beginning is ideal. But again, most people just don't know. And so what I would say is that there's no bad time. Obviously, I have clients that have been in business and been running their businesses successfully, for years, but they never knew about this. So now they're kind of going back and building from scratch, even though that they've had much success in their business, but this is just going to add to it. Um, but then I also have brand new businesses, obviously, people that are just starting their business, that see the value, that have a little bit of extra money to put into this kind of thing, and they want to do it right away. So there's no bad time, obviously. Uh, Again, if you have the know-how and you know where to go, you know where to look, and different things like that, I would do it right away.
Hmm.
I would do it
Yeah.
right away, because the thing with it is, building credit around your business is all about paying the bills you already have, but paying them in a way where the activity is reporting to the business credit bureaus. That's the
Mm.
main issue. Most business owners have all of these expenses that they're paying every single month. They're just not getting any of that activity reporting to the business credit bureaus.
Mm.
And so that's like the main thing. Like the biggest trick is to make it so the expenses that you're actually paying for every single month, you're actually getting that activity reporting to the business credit bureaus, so your score can go up, and so more importantly, your recommended credit limit can go up.
Sure.
But again, it's tricky because getting those things reported doesn't just happen. automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need somebody like from like me and our platform kind of showing the business owner and holding their hand and saying, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. That's going to get it reporting. And now all the activity that you've been paying for years, now it's actually going to be reported. And now you're going to see the fruits of that labor.
Yeah, and then you can actually leverage it and use it if you
Exactly.
need to. And, I'm assuming the nice thing about having business credit, just like personal credit, is it'll be there if you need it, but you don't necessarily have to use it. So just because you have that business line of credit or business credit card or whatever kind of credit it is, doesn't mean that you have to run up a bunch of debt. But it's nice
Right.
to know that if you do need to buy a new copy machine or have some other kind of significant business expense, that you've got the credit there to use if you need it.
100%. I mean, that's what I mean. It's not about whether, everybody says for a rainy day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a matter of are things going to go bad if things go bad. It's just a matter of when.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to be dealing with something in their business. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And it's the businesses that are able to weather those storms are the ones that stay in business. I mean, the stats are pretty staggering. 20% of businesses go out of business within the first year of starting, 30% by year 2, and almost half by year 5.
Wow.
If you make it past year 5, you're doing something right, but that's a pretty staggering statistic. And knowing that 1 out of every 2 businesses are going to go out of business to start, and that's pretty scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, the reason is because people just ran up against something happened, and they just weren't able to cover it. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
able to cover it from a cash flow perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we just came out of something that a lot of businesses couldn't recover from. What was it? It was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a kind of a long time ago, but it really wasn't. And again, if you don't have that corporate credit built in, kind of ready for an emergency, case, where maybe sales are slow one month and you need to cover payroll, or you know uh, uh, you need to something breaks and you need to make it a large purchase. Just different things like that. It's not a matter of if those things are going to happen, it's just when.
Yeah.
And are you putting yourself in the best position possible when those things do finally come to play?
Yeah, it's that Boy Scout motto, right? Always be prepared. And
Right.
establishing business credit is a great way to do it. So, Brian, if people want to contact you and contact BiZABLE to learn more about what they can do to establish their corporate credit, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, of course. Well, first place they can go obviously is my website, www.gobizable.com. GOBIZABLE. That there's a wealth of knowledge on there. Obviously we don't just deal in the credit building platform. We part of the platform is also funding. Some people would love to build business credit, but they're not in a position to do that. Sometimes they just need funding. And so we're also a funding platform as well. So
Amazing.
what they're going to find on our website is lots of information regarding those 2 things that I just, including some podcast clips that I was on, and a couple of different things. And then also a step-by-step guide on um, just a step-by-step YouTube. It's about 6 minutes, 6 minutes long. It's a video on my website that really explains in depth what the steps look like, what you're really getting from our platform. So there's a wealth of knowledge there, and then obviously I'm not hard to find. I got my cell phone and my email out there on everything, every single thing that I put out there. Obviously anybody can reach out to me. My cell phone is 253-961-6222. And then my email is just brian@gobizable.com.
Nice. Well, Brian, any final words of advice for business owners and entrepreneurs that are watching the show today?
Yeah, I would say Let yourself be open to receive some information that you may not know about. We live in a world right now where our walls are up high, and they have to be, because it seems like every other call we get is like a robocall,
Yeah,
somebody trying to
information
sell us.
overload.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody trying to sell us something at every single place that we go, no matter if it's out at the supermarket or if it's we're sitting on our couch and we're getting sales calls from random people, right? So as a society, we put these walls up, and as soon as we identify that somebody is even remotely trying to sell us something, we immediately put our walls up. Nope, not interested. I'm good.
Mm.
Without even really listening. I tell people that the majority of my job is not to do this credit building thing. It's actually to approach business owners in a way where they'll actually receive the message.
Mm.
Once they receive the message, and what they do with the information past that is totally up to them. But to actually get somebody open to hearing something new, and that they may not have known about, is the toughest part. And I'd say make yourself available, open, to have conversations that you might not know about. You might not be knowledgeable about that type of thing, about that subject, but you never know when that next big aha moment is going to come in your business, and somebody's going to teach you something that you may not have known that could be the game changer for your business.
Yeah. Excellent advice. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Brian McKechnie with BiZABLE, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Erica, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.